This episode is going to be about finding locations and securing them properly. When you start out with your script, you're going to have an idea of what type of locations that you're going to need. If you've written your own script, you do have a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to having to change things around, which is often the case when you're talking about a production that has very little money. But when you're first starting out, keep in mind what type of locations that you're looking for and what are going to be ideal for telling your story. Now, you might have decided that the people in your tale are going to live in a big apartment complex, or they might work in a public building. Ideally, you're going to want to get a hold of the exact type of location that you need. However, when it comes to anything that is publicly owned, you're going to be going through an awful lot of red tape and an awful lot of paperwork. You'll start by going over to your local film commission office, and they will let you know all the rules and regulations when it comes to shooting on public property. This also includes streets and public parks as well. Normally, these involve limited time frames, how close the location is to hospitals or medical facilities that can't be blocked off, any type of police presence that needs to be there to block off traffic, all kinds of contracts, including insurance for any damage that you might do to the property, and there's usually a lot of money involved too for the various licenses and permits and whatnot that you'll need. So, shooting on anything that is publicly owned can be very expensive, but sometimes you have to eat that cost because it's the only place that you can shoot your story. Now, if you don't have the budget to cover all that expense, you might want to consider tweaking your story up a bit. Maybe your action doesn't have to take place in a big office building. Maybe it can take place in a home office. Maybe your people don't need to live in a giant apartment building. Maybe they just share a big home, or maybe the story takes place in a sorority house. Sometimes you can even find private locations that can be made to look like public ones. For example, a large house that has white walls might be able to dress up to look like the inside of an office. You'll have to get a little bit creative here, but shooting on private property will bypass a lot of those pesky rules and regulations that public shooting will take on. You'll have to check with your state to make sure that there aren't any hidden rules in there, but for the most part, people shooting on private property is a lot less expensive. But where do you find private property if you don't own it yourself? Well, thanks to the wonders of the internet, we can now find places that are available for rent by the owners. These are generally used as vacation homes, and you can find hundreds, if not thousands of them, all listed on various websites if you are willing to spend the time looking through them. Don't make the mistake of expecting that every homeowner is going to be willing to let you use their home for a film shoot. And you're also going to have to make sure that the houses aren't being listed by somebody else who is not the owner, because you are going to have to work with the owners themselves on this deal. A lot of newer filmmakers have taken to using these sites and just rent a place, go in and film without letting the homeowner know what they're doing. This is a really bad mistake, and the reason for it is if you're caught doing this, you can get thrown out of the house, or if it becomes recognizable on film that the owner happens to see, there could be a potential lawsuit there as well. So you are always going to need the permission of the homeowner in order to shoot in a private location. When you are discussing this idea with the homeowners, be sure to be completely honest with them about everything. Let them know what you want to do, let them know how you're planning on doing it, let them know any alterations that you might have to make to the property and how you plan on putting things back as good as new, if not better. A lot of everyday folks are not familiar with the movie making process. You might end up with people who think that as soon as you mention you're making a movie that you've got millions of dollars to blow and they'll ask for a hefty location fee. If you can't convince them that that's not the case when it comes to small budget independents, turn and walk away. There are hundreds of other houses out there. However, most people, especially in more suburban areas that aren't used to those fees that are given by larger productions, are going to be a little bit more willing to turn over the keys to their homes as long as you're being very respectful towards their property. Now, something that happens quite frequently when people put houses up for rent is that they will hire a property manager or a real estate agent to find tenants for them. While this sounds like it would cut through a lot of problems, it actually can cause a heck of a lot more. You see, property managers and real estate agents are in it solely for the money. They don't have any type of sentimental value attached to the property itself. All they're after is the buck. So if you're talking to a real estate agent or a rental manager and you're telling them all about the movie you want to shoot in, how many people are going to be in there, and how many cars are going to be around the property at any given moment, chances are that's not going to be something that they're going to want to bring to their client. But they are going to be thinking about the money that they're going to make off the commission of running that house for however long it is you need it for. It is not unheard of, in fact it's almost common, for these rental managers to downplay the project to the homeowners. What you might have told them was an action movie with a cast of about 30 people, they'll mention casually to the homeowners that it's a romantic comedy with maybe 2 or 3 people and very limited crew. They're not interested in the truth here. They're interested in the commission. They want that paper signed, and they know that if any rules are broken off of the rental agreement that they're going to offer up to you in order to rent it, they'll be able to evict you from the property. The homeowners are trusting the agent to make sure that they keep clients who adhere to the rules that were set when the property first became a rental. The property manager might not necessarily tell you about all those rules until it comes right down to signing them, and they're banking on the fact that you're not going to be reading all that fine print. So what happens if you don't personally make sure that the property owner knows exactly what to expect? You're going to have some angry property owners. You might have some property owners driving by just because they're curious to see what it looks like when a movie's being shot at their house, and be absolutely appalled to see the small army of people, the barrage of cars. You might even be shooting some action sequences where they hear loud noises coming from inside. It can overwhelm people who are not familiar with the industry, and their only concern is going to be about the welfare of that property. They're not going to care whether or not you're done with it or not. This is why I can't stress enough how important it is to go over every little detail with the property owners. Let them know how many people are going to be there, how many cars are going to be there. Find out if there's any noise ordinances in the area, because there are some neighborhoods where they literally have a law that things have to be quiet after a certain hour in the evening. Find out whether or not you are going to be responsible for any of the general cleaning, or if the property owners have a service that they hire for this. Make sure that you have anything in place to talk about if there is any damage to the property, how it will get fixed. Make sure that the times that you'll be filming are known to the property owners and the dates that you'll be renting the property. And make sure that everything is in an iron-tight contract that will oversee any previous contracts that they might have with location managers or people who are renting the properties on their behalf. That way, you don't get somebody throwing out a piece of paper that says you can't have more than 3 people in the house when you went on a handshake deal with the location manager saying that there were going to be 30. Get all of this in writing, get it signed by the actual location owners. If you suspect that the people who are trying to make this contract with you are not the owners, it is not that difficult to look at public records to find out who owns a building. You might find that they might be the children of the owners and the owners live out of the country. Well, then you're going to have to find a way to get a hold of those parents. Or the parents can send in a paper that will give their children temporary rights to be able to make those decisions for them. But you do need to have something with the owner's signature clearly on it. Failing to take these precautions can put your production to a stop in a heartbeat. all it takes is one angry location owner to decide that enough is enough, and they can shut you down and boot you out of that location. Then you've not only wasted a lot of money, but you also are back to square one and have to go looking for another location. So do yourself a favor and make sure that all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed when it comes to dealing with location owners. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Unconnected Filmmaker, and if you found this information useful and want to be notified when the next video premieres, just hit that subscribe button. Or if you have anything you'd like to see an episode on, feel free to comment below. See you next time, and keep those cameras rolling.